excited to welcome you all to the 21st Annual Economic Development Celebration here at the beautiful historic Opera House in Littleton, New Hampshire. The Chamber of Commerce is and always will be an entity that exists to serve the economy of Littleton. For ages, it has performed its efforts admirably with a focus on maintaining an impressive status quo. Past events have been overseen and continued. The main street has increased in its beauty, and our members' requests have been examined and discussed with diligence and with all efforts to please. The status quo was disrupted in 2008 by a financial downturn beyond any individual citizen's control. It is now time to refocus and redouble our efforts to create momentum toward not only post-recovery ideas, but an expansion beyond anything Littleton has seen in its past. As my new position as Executive Director of the Littleton Area Chamber of Commerce warms to me, and I begin to move more fluidly through the channels of members and local citizenry, I see now that much more is possible. I see now that momentum can be built through the strength of our members to serve Littleton's entire population. While once we were a mill town among many, existing by the whistles that govern time spent in the workplace, we can now become a town that thrives unshackled by the mill employers and a great population of employees. Now our product, tourism is now our product, downtown is now our mill, and enjoyment of this place by its people is our ultimate payoff. Pride will be our bonus, unity will be our byproduct, and growth the investment on our return. In recent meetings with local business owners, I have heard the call for a resurgence of opportunity. I have been informed that locals and tourists alike enjoy what has been happening. But more can be done, and the community is willing to work in unison to manifest that increase in action. The North Country is rich with tradition, and nobody has ever suggested that we turn our backs on those long-loved and proven practices. Only that an effort toward unity amongst loyal patrons and professionals will offer so much more to the proud practices that this amazing community has always held to with such deep reverence. The era of social media is upon us. The time for mass communication has come, and it is my duty as Executive Director to focus all our efforts on gaining interest from those who for so long assumed Lincoln and North Conway were the only resources for culture, community, shopping, and vacation getaways. Our river is the geographical center of our town. Our community was built around it. It is time we re-embraced it. A river to walk along, shops to stop into, eateries to enjoy a bite, and individual community representatives to interpret the scene is what will make Littleton, New Hampshire a known destination from coast to coast. We in the North Country almost instinctively work together to achieve our goals. It is how we have thrived up here since the first settlers arrived in the late 18th century. We carry on that tradition today in our collective planning sessions and committees. I offer all of you a forum for improvement, expansion, and positive change within the venue that is the Chamber of Commerce. I will commit my every moment's efforts toward the evolution of Littleton while promising to never turn my back on the Littleton that has always been home to the rugged entrepreneurial spirit that created a place in these mountains for every one of us. Please join me, help in guiding me, and never hesitate to motivate me with your concerns, your requests, or your advice. Together, as I'm sure you already know, Littleton will be talked about nationwide as a place to bring friends and family for a feeling of gladness, possibility, recreation, and community. Thank you all for your passion for Littleton's future. We will continue our program with the Pledge of Allegiance from Jeff Howard. Yep.
Well, I'm glad you're all standing. My job is to introduce Jeff. Those of you who watched Channel 2 a couple weeks ago saw Jeff give a Veterans Day speech at Littleton High School. It was a true stem winder of a speech. He threaded the needle of honoring veterans, connecting with over 350 students, and challenge everyone in the audience to remember the service to our country. Jeff is a true Littleton success story. He moved to Littleton at age 10, was raised by a single mom who worked at the Collins and Hoffman shoe shop. His dad passed away, unfortunately, when he was 14. However, he loved sports and he connected well with people. He ran into an individual while he was in high school who changed his life. It was his guidance counselor, John Bove. John convinced him that he could go on to college and have a better life. He went on to UNH, graduated, spent 10 years in education, 34 years in UPS, 35 years in UPS, 34 years in the Army National Guard, went from being a private to a lieutenant colonel. He also has raised a wonderful family, and as most fortunate men, he married above himself. At age 40, his kids thought so much of him, they did a poster claiming that he was a king. He is truly a role model for all of the young people here in Littleton, and while all of us are getting together to huff and puff over economic development, it's because of people like Jeff's service in our country on behalf of the community in our state. Jeff is someone that we all should be proud. So I'd like everyone to give Jeff a real round of applause for his service.
Please raise your right hand. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Jeff, before you go too far, we'd just like to present you with this certificate honoring you for all your years of service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I've actually been asked to be the enforcer for tonight. As many who have been here for years and years, you know that it can get quite long, and with a lot of speakers, we really try to run this through. So I'm going to ask that everybody stay to your allotted time, which is usually 2 or 3 minutes. Next, before I get on and introduce the Ammonoosuc and our theme for this year, I want to just have Mike Gilman come up and give us a little bit update about the Board of Selectmen.
Good afternoon. Greetings from the Board of Selectmen, Mike, Margie, and Milt, the 3 M's. We've had it's been quiet the last couple of years, and it's been productive. We've done everything we can do to keep the rate down as far as taxes are concerned, and keep services at a healthy level. And we know that that's just a small part when it comes to the economic vitality of the Littleton area. And so that's all I have to really report. You can watch it on Channel 2, enjoy the jokes and the fireworks occasionally and that sort of thing. But the point is that Littleton is moving in a positive direction, and the business community, the voters of this town, the taxpayers, and the select board, we're all parts of this machine that how is it that, Jerry, what did you usually say? It's fabulous, isn't it? I know, it's fabulous. So anyway, with that, I like short meetings, and I like short speeches.
Thank you, Mike. Each year, a theme is picked for this event based on what's been in the news, what's being talked about, and where everything is happening. This year, the Ammonoosuc River has once again taken the spotlight for the event, but with a twist from last year. This year, we look at the relationship between the river and the Littleton economy, the history, the present, and the future. Next up, we have some great speakers who will discuss the river and what it means for Littleton. And we're going to start off with Brian Ward giving us a little bit of history.
Next year will be the 230th anniversary of our community. It was incorporated on November 4th, 1784. 13 years later, in 1797, Solomon Mann built a gristmill and a sawmill right next door, below the Carter Street Bridge. It was a gala celebration. Ray Burton cut the ribbon, and everyone enjoyed it. However, that was the beginning of the economic love affair for the community and the Ammonoosuc River. Over the years that followed, 5 dams were built on the Ammonoosuc because of the tremendous power it generated and the ability to have a manufacturing sector. The river corridor, primarily from Mill Street to Saranac Street, became our first industrial park. In 1866, the Saranac Glove Company was created. It went on to serve for 111 years. Investments continued right along the river. The last major capital investment was the Littleton Water and Light Department in 1936, built the dam that's being used today. That was closed in 1969, that short era of low electricity prices. However, it was reopened in 1980 after the energy crisis. In 1960, Saranac Glove hit hard times. Stockholders voted to liquidate the company. The town came together to try to find a solution so that Saranac, which had served the community so long, could continue. They worked so that a Dr. Arnold Polonsky, who was the former owner of what was known as the Bethlehem Mink Farm, purchased the complex more or less as a caretaker until another buyer could be found. On January 13, 1963, the town voted to spend $1.25 million, 1963, $1.25 million, to build our sewage treatment plant so that the new entity, which was known as the Saranac Tannery Company, could begin. They needed to have the sewage treatment plant in place. 9 days later, on January 22nd, the complex that Ray Cloutier operates now was sold to the Saranac Tannery Company. In July of '63, town officials, along with those from the Saranac Tannery, met with Governor King and to hope save Saranac. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. In September of '66, the assets of Saranac Glove were sold and the production was relocated from the tannery to the Solomon Block, where for 11 years the Saranac Glove Company continued until it went out of business in 1977. In 1971, the portion that is now the Tannery Marketplace was sold to Val Polson. Val bought it again as a caretaker, borrowed money as folks had a first mortgage on it, and held it until he could find somebody that could develop it. That was Ray Cloutier. Ray leased it for a period of time and then eventually purchased it. The balance of the property was sold by Dr. Polonsky in 1979 to Henry Kober. Henry bought that property. He had leased it for a couple of years before, and he operated it as DCIs, and they are in Lisbon primarily, and they closed in 2004, and unfortunately on July 10th, 2008, on a fire that required 70 firefighters to fight it, 20 firefighters at the station, it burned down. The corridor from Saranac Street to Mill Street, after Saranac went out of business in the early 60s, fell into blight and despair. However, the town, through a series of initiatives, I won't list them all, the Lafayette National Bank acquired 8 properties. The Mill Street redevelopment acquired 6 properties. The Village Bookstore acquired 2 properties. Two Small project that Ahead did acquired 9. A total of 25 properties were acquired and torn down. The town spent over $10 million for both the Main Street and the river area to focus on that. In addition, 15 Main Streets and Mill Street properties were invested in. Dave Ernsberger is putting together the economic investment that occurred. The large ones were obviously the gristmill complex and the River Glen. For 36 years, Littleton has worked to improve its downtown area. The River District Revitalization Plan, under the leadership of John Hennessy and others, is going to be shown here today. It was 50 years ago that this town came together to try to save Saranac. 50 years later, we're working together to revitalize that area. It is an extremely exciting project, and I happen to have the Littleton town history. In 1924, an irate citizen wrote into the Courier and said that the river area is the most attractive area in the community, but we treat it like an untidy neighborhood. So from 24 on, we're now going to address the needs going forward. And we all believe that this will become a showcase for all of the work we've done and all the work we'll do in the forward. Thank you.
John Hennessy, I'm a resident of Littleton, Vice President of Littleton Coin Company. And on the way over, I got a little nervous. I speak to audiences at the Coin Company frequently, and they go pretty smoothly because everyone's being paid during those speeches. So when I walked in today, it was great to see, though, that the only thing better than money is free booze over here, so I'm pretty comfortable up here, too. This recent project got rolling about 14 months ago when a group of residents, business leaders, and the town got together and decided to make a proposal to a group called Plan New Hampshire, who does planning projects around the state. And the current geographic area of focus for this plan under the proposal is the area you see up here. It's both sides of the river, from Bridge Street near Corey's Sports Shop all the way to the Cottage Street Bridge. Plan New Hampshire reviewed the proposal and ultimately, fortunately for us, decided to accept it and decided to come to town and perform what they call a design charrette, which is a bit of a foreign name to me and to a lot of us, but it's really a planning project that involves the entire community as well as the experts that the Plan New Hampshire organization brings to town. So these are in your handout, so please don't try to read this. I'll highlight the important points. There's 3 reasons why Plan New Hampshire gave that they decided to accept Littleton's proposal. The first one is the strength of the downtown corridor. Through all the work that all of you have done in the past, we have a vibrant downtown with full storefronts. Number 2 is the history that Littleton has for successful development. 2 projects I like to point to is one is the industrial park. The town decided to make an investment in that region, and it's now producing good income for the community. The other is Main Street itself. We've made a lot of investments in that corridor over the years, and again today that's producing income for the community as well. And the third reason they gave is that this district, the river corridor, really has great potential, and they felt confident that based on the town's history that we'd really be able to take their plan and do a lot with it for the benefit of all the community members. So what are those benefits? Number 1 is income to the community. Mike talked about tax rate earlier, and with a little investment in this corridor, we really feel confident that it'll bring a return to the town and keep the tax rate reasonable for us in the future. Number 2 is safety. We've got some disjointed development that's occurred over the years that Brian alluded to. We can improve safety for walking, biking, traffic, and parking. And third, it can be a really great asset to enjoy for all the residents here in the community and to attract visitors to the area. The charrette made 4 primary recommendations. 1 is to create a river district, to look at the whole area as one whole view rather than a whole bunch of different parts. Number 2 is to really celebrate the river. There's a lot of areas where the beautiful river is not visible or accessible to people, so they advised us to look into that. And really importantly, to complement and not compete with Main Street. We've got a great, vibrant downtown, and we want to accentuate that and not detract from it. And number 4, more in the development frame, to develop it in phases. Money is always an important aspect of any development project. So have a grand vision, phase it out, and take it one step at a time. So what are the areas for focus that are going to make this successful and helpful to the community? Number 1 is focusing on pedestrian access and circulation. Number 2 is vehicles and parking. 3 is we've got an intersection that we need to work on at the intersection of Meadow and Saranac Street. 4 is to really highlight the river and the Riverwalk in the area. And 5, make it attractive for development. So they didn't just make this list. They actually came up with the community to create a real plan. A lot of work went into it. So first is what I talked about, the pedestrian gateways and access. If you go next here, difficult to see here, you can see it in your handouts. They identified 6 corridors that are gateways from Main Street to the river and really making that one cohesive area. It would create walkways, and importantly too, it would create some overlooks for visitors and residents to really enjoy the river views and the beauty of the river. Next, they looked at the vehicles and parking. They identified 5 real difficult areas with opportunity, which they then turned into a real cohesive plan that straightens and unifies the roadway, identifies really developable areas to create parking, and makes it one nice district. And finally, as I mentioned, the intersection of Meadow and Saranac is just not a safe intersection. It's narrow, it's a bad angle from one direction, a really good angle from the other direction, and there's poor visibility. So they recommended utilizing the existing Bridge Street intersection, which is a 90-degree angle, and taking advantage of the infrastructure we already have in place to create a really nice access way to this district. The right is just a view of what part of the vision would be coming from that intersection, looking to the east. So once that project was done, the town remained committed to executing on what had been started. So in March of this year, formed the River District Redevelopment Commission, which is made up of 12 members, which you can see here. And the 12 members, those of us represent the town, residents of the town, businesses, as well as regional planning and development organizations. But far beyond the 12 of us, already in this short period of time, there have been over 70 people and organizations who have committed money, time, resources, or insights into making this district a better place. So I certainly thank all of you who have been involved in the project thus far, and we certainly look forward to including as many additional people as are willing and interested to participate. I said before, investment is important, and certainly we're going to need to make an investment to realize the return on this. But what I'd like to say is that we've had a $4,000 budget that the town gave us at the beginning of this year, and we've only written one check from that. We're committed to spending the money wisely that is invested in the area and in us. And the money we invested was $600 in order to apply for a grant that may lead to $25,000 coming our way to make improvements in the district. So any investment from the taxpayers or from local businesses or individuals certainly will be used wisely. It's a list of some of the contributors, and surely I've forgotten some, so you won't see this in your handout. Finally, a little bit about the organization. We've divided the commission up into 3 committees. The first is focusing on transportation and infrastructure, and Steve LaFrance, you're going to hear from in a few minutes. The founder of Horizons Engineering has agreed to come up and speak a little bit more detail about that. Committee focused on land use and the river. And finally, special projects, events, and marketing. And Dave Ernsberger, who's a Littleton property owner, as well as a Main Street business owner, is going to speak in more detail about that. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is the risky part of the day when Ernsberger tries to speak in 5 minutes. Let me take you through a bunch of charts. First of all, I'm very proud to be involved in this town and extremely pleased to be involved in the River District project. I think it has such a huge potential for the future of our community and our citizens. The Special Projects, Events, and Marketing Committees really focused on several things. One is to try to show some demonstrated progress as quickly as we can on some of the activities that we're talking about. So I'll talk to you a little bit about demonstration projects, what you could expect to see from this commission by the spring of 2014. And then involved a little bit in how do we make this more of a destination and market ourselves as a destination with the new River District as the kind of at the center of this. We're going to spend some time on signage, and Jim Alden and Kim DeLutis are helping me run that. We're working on what kinds of things could we do down along the river in 2014. As you know, we did the Brewfest this year. We did this wonderful fall festival down there. We've done several other activities, and we're going to continue to grow the events that we put along the river. I'm also responsible for trying to put together a revitalization plan, which is basically our way of documenting a master plan for the future of the River District organization. And then one thing that we're spending a lot of time on is what do we think the impact will be for the citizens of this community in terms of the economic impact. And then John Hennessy and I and many others are working on how do we get the money to take on some of these activities. In your handout is a very detailed look at each of these 5 things and the things we're doing. I want to spend just a second giving you a sense for what we're going to do in demonstration projects, and we'll have to go through this. I animated this slide, so thinking I had a clicker, but we'll go through this fairly quickly. Thank you. So it starts with a gateway. One of the things you're going to see up and down Main Street and in the corridor along Meadow Street and the entrance into it is we're going to try to put these gateways that direct you towards the river. And so I'll give you an example of one in a second, but the first gateway we're going to try to do is going to be called the Pollyanna Gateway. It's between the Hunkins Eaton building and the Gold House Pizza building. You might have seen the umbrellas there this spring. That was to draw attention to that area, and we'll put a canopy there that'll be a gateway down to the river, so it'll go down those steps. There'll be another set of steps, and then ultimately you'll get to a vista, and the vista is going to be a deck that'll cantilever out from that part of the area onto the river so you can look up and down the beautiful Ammonoosuc from there. And our plan is to put those types of vistas at several points along the river corridor. So here's an example of a drawing. Frank Dodge has been working with us to design the deck. This is the walkway that today goes along the fence, and right across from that second set of steps that goes down to the parking will be a 12 by 16 vista that'll sit under a canopy of trees and look out up and down the river. If you go to the next one. Along with all of this, we're going to try to take the same beautiful lighting that was chosen for Main Street and begin to put that along the River District area using the same flags, the beautiful flowers, all the things that we do to bring so much charm to Main Street, we're going to try to carry down along the River District area. Okay, we go to the next one. There is a major plan to put a gateway at the new Bridge Street entrance, which you'll see something about. That'll be the entrance into Saranac Street. And at the Mill Street entrance there by Northern Lights and the Tilton building, we'll put a gateway like this. It'll say River District, not Saranac Street. And I think we even misspelled Saranac there, but anyway, it'll say the River District, and that'll be the entrance, the main entrance to on the Main Street side and on the Meadow Street side into this district. Now, let me just talk briefly. We've already found that several of you in this room have been generous enough to put some money behind this thing. And so we have been out trying to identify who might the sources of funds be other than to ask the citizens to pay for all of this. Obviously, there are a lot of entities that do granting, state, federal, and private organizations that have projects like this that they get behind, and so we'll be looking for all of those sources of funds. We're going to be going to the businesses, the building owners, the developers, and trying to get them to participate. The banks, the real estate organizations. We've already had 2 real estate firms that have come forward with a donation to help us, and so we'll be moving forward with that. But these are all of the types of what I call value stakeholders, the people and organizations that will gain great value from what we're going to do here. And we're going to be asking them to find a way to help us in funding what this thing is all about. Okay? So that's kind of the brief introduction. There's a lot more detail in your handout. I think it's a great project. We're going to spend a lot of time trying to keep communicating to the citizens and the organizations in Littleton to let them know what it is we're doing, to get their inputs, and of course to get your involvement in this thing. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve LaFrance, not Tom Considine. I was out of town for a little while. When I got back, I think June or July, I got a call from Mike Claflin. He asked me if I'd be interested in participating in this project down along the river, and I said sure. So shortly thereafter, I spoke to Dave and John, and I frankly was kind of impressed with the enthusiasm that they had for this project. So, you know, I've been working on it for a very short period of time, really, and just found out yesterday that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's quite an exhaustive list, but we have started working on some various things, and you know, I've participated a little bit in some of the strategy for engineering and planning, and had some assistance from a committee member, Jim McMahon, who's also here today. Next slide. Infrastructure considerations where the rubber meets the road. You know, you start talking about roadways and water and sewer and drainage and electric service, and people's eyes just kind of glaze over because it's not particularly sexy, but it's kind of important, you know, and I think if we do our job as engineers, you don't even have to think about these things when it's done. You know, we all take it for granted, and that's actually a good thing. As far as the streets go, one of the big issues down there, as we all know, is traffic flow direction. It's easy to get lost down there. I mean, I've worked in town for a long time, and I go down there and I still sometimes get confused about what's one way, what's do not enter, which way to go, where can I park, that sort of thing. So you can imagine a visitor trying to come into this area, you know, we're trying to invite people in to participate and enjoy the area, and if they can't even figure out where they're going or how to park, it makes it kind of difficult. So, you know, it's more than just the cars and parking. It's energizing the environment and trying to get people to participate in a lot of different levels, certainly on bikes and pedestrian, and those kind of considerations are important. You know, I was down there yesterday looking around, and, you know, I really started to get excited about this project. And, you know, I think the Littleton's here because the river was a source of energy at one time, and, you know, we're going to go back and make it a source of energy again. This connectivity thing, if you drive down Saranac Street, you know, life is good, and then all of a sudden you hit this spot, you know. Littleton Water and Light put this pole right in the way. I don't know what they were thinking, but, you know, one of the things we're going to be doing is talking to Bank of New Hampshire and other willing landowners that are interested in helping to make the connectivity a little bit better and tie things together so that when people do drive there, they kind of have an idea of where they're supposed to be going. Water service. Here's Littleton Water and Light, working on a local water main. Clearly there's, you know, anytime you try to move roads and do drainage work and all that sort of stuff, there's all kinds of stuff buried in the ground that we don't even know that's there. And you got to sort of plan ahead, because if you don't, you can have some issues. So again, it's kind of boring stuff, but, you know, the first time I met with the committee, I said, look, you know, we really want to try to create a long-term plan here and make sure that we take some of these things into consideration so that we hopefully do it right the first time. And you have to balance this long-term planning with actually getting something done. You know, the people in town are going to get kind of tired of hearing about the planning and spending money on these long-term plans. They want to see things happen, and I know Dave has really been pushing hard to get some of these initial projects off the ground so that people see some results. Sewer and drainage is another thing. You know, you can't have one without the other. So there's a lot of issues down there with drainage, not only in the area that we're going to be working, but drainage coming down from Main Street. So it's kind of a Rubik's Cube. You get one side looking good and you turn it over and it's So you really have to kind of work at it. Plan ahead. Once it's black, try not to go back. You know, we all see this kind of thing where they just finished putting the pavement down and then here comes the guy with the saw and the jackhammer because something got forgotten. So we're going to try to the extent we can avoid that sort of thing. Some of the challenges, multiple landowners and traditional uses. Now you've got residential, you've got businesses, you've got a lot of parking issues. It's a little bit of a Chinese fire drill down there sometimes. And you've got some efforts there to make accommodations for pedestrians that are sort of disjointed. It's hard to walk from one side of this project to the other. You can't on a sidewalk. You have to really kind of pick your way through, and we're going to try to tie that all together. Consensus building. really hard to do. You know, you've got 10, 15 people in a room, you've got a whole community, you're trying to get them to get behind a project. Everybody has different ideas. You know, us engineers, everything has to be a straight line, really simple. Whereas the creative people, you know, they have the vision, and somehow we all have to meld it in and turn that vision into some kind of reality. Covering the bases and still showing progress. It kind of speaks to what I was saying about, you know, you can't just spend years planning. You actually have to build something. So somewhere you have to break it up into phases so you accomplish something and show people that you really got the energy to get the job done. What does it cost and where's the money coming from? You know, we're not going to print it. We're not going to do it with bake sales. You know, I think our job is to try to break this up into phases that we can actually build and afford to build, and then go search for the money to do it. There will be, I suspect, a request to participate at a local level. You know, most of these grant programs, they want to see that the community has some skin in the game. You know, it's our job to make sure the skin's on the elbow and not on the side of the neck. So, you know, to the extent we can, we'll look for grant dollars. Minimizing impacts is important. You know, there's people down there that are trying to make a living. You know, we can't go and tear up the neighborhood and block loading docks and not let people through. So it's kind of it's a puzzle to be able to get these projects done and still let people get on with life and make a living at the same time. The initial focus areas are compiling existing surveys. That's a horrible slide. There was a bunch of survey done down there. We tied it all together to the extent that we could. Credit goes out to VHB, HEB, Riverside Engineering, who else? Gardner Kellogg, and some stuff that we had in our office. We tied it all together. It's not perfect, but it's a start. And this is the kind of the fabric, the canvas that we paint on, so for us, we need to start with whatever information's available. Meadow Street, Saranac intersection, you've heard something about that. Tough intersection. You know, if you're going to make that the gateway to the community, you've got to do something different. This is Jimmy McMahon's rendering for the intersection, making that T intersection to make that a little bit more user-friendly. The area behind Bank of New Hampshire, we looked at this slide before. I noticed that guy wire that's in the way actually has no tension on it, Tom, so we can take that out. I think we can slide right by that. And this is kind of the plan as it stands today, you know, the reconfigured intersection, and then the road to get through behind the bank. And we're going to be sitting down with Alicia to try to make sure she doesn't lose too many parking spaces. So that's hot off the press this morning, so it's obviously a work in progress. There'll be multiple changes to that as we go through the process, but it just shows you that we are making some progress. Placeholding for future development areas, pedestrian access, landscaping, parking, those are all considerations that we have to have when we're looking at this planning process. Next steps, working on the concept plans now, contacting landowners and stakeholders. We have to develop a phasing plan. What are we going to do first and how are we going to do it? Cost estimates. It's really important to know what these various things cost. And then you move into planning and preliminary design, final design and permitting, construction, and then ultimately we're going to celebrate our success. Okay? Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Fred Moody, Town Manager. I didn't bring any fancy slides, so you're going to have to just listen to me, I guess. I want to thank Alicia and Lauren and the Chamber for hosting this gala event. I also want to direct your attention to a couple of improvements here. The chairs you're sitting in are brand new, and the curtain on the stage is brand new. So. We're working hard with the Opera House Commission to make this venue a central focus of the town and improve usage, because we're finding that everyone that does use it enjoys it and wants to come back again and again. What I'm just going to talk about is a couple of the projects that probably have already been mentioned, but maybe elaborate just a few minutes on them. You all know the river walk down along the south side of the river. We still have about $19,000 that was not spent on the area in front of the River Glen, and we will be spending that in the next year or two to extend and improve the current Riverwalk area. We're also working with Littleton Water and Light in the next few weeks, hopefully, to clean up some of the riverbank along Mill Street. There are some dead, dying, down trees, and I think that'll be a collaborative effort between the town and Littleton Water and Light, and will pave the way for the overlook that Dave Ernsberger mentioned. It was also mentioned by John that we had a $4,000 appropriation, that only $600 had been spent. That $600 was for the application for a New Hampshire DOT Rails to Trails grant of $25,000. That $25,000 will hopefully be matched by a $30,000 appropriation from the state of New Hampshire, and that $55,000 will then be used to remove the ties and rails east of the Industrial Park Road as far toward the Whitefield town line as we can go. And then that recreational trail will extend the Ammonoosuc Rail Trail all the way from Woodsville to the Whitefield or Bethlehem town line. Another interesting project that's going along that many of you may not have noticed, the town has been working with Kate Vaughn and the Senior Center and numerous other residents in town on a tree heart project. That commissioned and constructed a bronze sculpture of a oak tree stump. And on all of your tables there's a little black and white picture, artist rendition of that I'd like you to pass around. That structure is currently in the Bank of New Hampshire lobby on Main Street, so I encourage you all to go look at that. But ultimately, it's hoped that it'll be placed in a little pocket park in front of the Senior Center along the Riverwalk. So if we can get additional donations and perhaps some town funds, we will be able to construct that. To date, that project has been funded by the Eames Family Trust, the Nancy Fitzgerald Vaughn Trust, Linda Hoffman, who is the artist, the New England Foundation for the Arts, the Jane B. Cook Charitable Trust, New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, Littleton Millworks, and Star Construction locally. In order to accommodate a lot of the development that we've been contemplating here, we either have to meet the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services shoreland rules, which extend 250 feet back from the river. And if you look where the 250-foot line runs, it pretty much goes from the river right up to Main Street, which essentially says you can't have any new development, and that's a qualified statement, but so we are applying for an exemption. There is a provision in the state statute that says for developed areas, already developed areas with high levels of impermeable soils, which are paved areas and rooftops and that, you may qualify for an exemption. So I met with our consultant and the North Country Council today, and the application for that will be going in before Christmas. So hopefully midwinter or so we will have an answer on that shoreline exemption, which will still leave about a 50-foot buffer for non-development along the river, but then will allow the town to ultimately determine what is constructed from the 50-foot setback to the 250-foot line. Other projects that the town has been involved in, you all saw what happened on exit 42 out by the McDonald's area intersection. That was the off-site Lowe's improvements finally being constructed. That was about $700,000 in improvements. We will be getting the traffic study for additional improvements to the Old County Road intersection next week, which the developer is on track with meeting our requirements there. And we're just completing some stormwater drainage improvements down in the Mill Street area and the Renaissance Mill property. We had some heavy storms this spring and summer that washed out some of the private property there, and we're trying to address that problem. So I think with that, I'll wrap it up and say thank you all for coming, and I appreciate you listening to me.
Hello, I'm Tom Considine. I represent Littleton Water and Light, and I just want to start out by saying I'm one of those persons that find utilities very sexy. I'm sorry, Steve, but and I would agree with Selectman Gilman that the utilities are an integral part of the viability of the economic viability of any town, and especially Littleton. I'm happy to say that the electric rates in this town are the lowest in probably New England, and our water rates are pretty close to it. So that speaks volumes as far as what your businesses are using for their expenses and costs. Littleton Water and Light was brought into this very early on in the planning stage. Thank you to the committee and John, because of the economic impact of building this infrastructure. You know, water, pole lines, drainage, and sewer. You don't know they're there until something happens. When you see a manhole blow off and colored water coming out of the ground, it's not drinking water, then there's a problem. And those things are catastrophic, and we want to prevent that from happening. That's through good planning and maintenance. To do those work, though, we're talking extremely expensive projects to move. These lines don't like to move. Pole lines don't like to have bends in them. Like Steve said, we like straight lines. Curves are more of an artist's touch. Those are your architects. We like the straight lines. Things move better in a steady state in a straight line. But Littleton Water and Light has invested quite a lot down in that area already, the Mill Street area. Back in the 80s, like Brian said, all those poles were down along the riverbank. Those were all been moved up, basically, in the Mill Street area. On Saranac Street, we just finished a project that we moved all the pole lines behind the sidewalks. If you look around town, many of the poles are in front of the sidewalks. Well, back in the day, pedestrian safety was not a big issue. So roads came first with horse and buggy, pole lines came second, and then all of a sudden cars became faster, pedestrian safety became an issue, sidewalks came in. So that's why you have roads, poles, sidewalks. Kind of backwards in today's thinking, but that's how things went. The underground water system through the Mill Street River District is some of the oldest pipe in town with the highest pressure. That's good in some respects, bad in others. That was our vital link to supplying water to the Meadow Street area. Now over the last 20 years, we've made other improvements where the importance of that line is not as critical to the whole system, but it is critical to those people down in there. So, and I can't go without saying that that whole area ties into, from an infrastructure standpoint, utility standpoint, that area ties into Main Street. You'll notice that down through Main Street, all you're looking at right now are streetlight poles. That's the reason for that. It's by design. Everything on Main Street is fed from the back. Oops, sorry, from the back. It's from the Mill Street area and from the hillside from the north. So everything is pretty well tucked in behind there, which presents a nice vision going down through Main Street. But there's a price to pay for that. All the poles are up above ground in the on those side streets on the back side of the Main Street. Just to put a plug in for the water and light, what we've done lately, most of you know that we built a 1 million gallon storage tank above the high school from Pine Street. It's been in service almost 1 year to date. With that, we acquired a grant from the state of New Hampshire to a water conservation grant to leak locate most of our water lines. We located about 53 miles, actually sound detected 53 miles of water line this past summer. And we reduced our waste by almost 2/3. So with that waste is expense, trying to do more with less. So that project that we spent $1 million to build that project, we're reaping the benefits now as our expense line is coming down and our revenues are staying high. So that was a good thing for Littleton Water and Light. So with that, I think I'll leave, but don't let anybody tell you that utilities aren't sexy. Because you turn that tap on, the water doesn't come out. There's a reason why it comes out of that faucet, and Steve and I and others will make sure that that continues to happen. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's me again. My role here in the next few minutes is to describe to you all of the wonderful things that have happened in 2013 on Main Street. And I wanted to tell you that we're going to quit calling it downtown Littleton. We're now going to call it uptown Littleton. Everything is getting better and better and better. We had a Main Street that in 2012 was almost completely filled up. And yet we've added over 20 new entrepreneurs and new businesses along the Main Street and the River District corridor, and I want to describe those for you now. We continue to have a really strong Main Street. In many ways, it is the epicenter of the North Country. They're innovative people, they're imaginative people. As the world is changing, the businesses are creative enough to change with it. Just look at what the Photo Factory's done in the last few years. We have a strong, diverse, interesting set of businesses. People love to come to Main Street because they can do so many different things. We have 14 restaurants in downtown, uptown Littleton. We have a beautiful and inviting Main Street. Our flowers in the summer, our pianos, our flags. There's no prouder place to live and better place to visit than downtown Littleton. It's a glad and cheerful place with glad and cheerful citizens, people that think in positive, aggressive ways about their future. And we're very fortunate to have committed and strong business and community leaders. Now let me tell you about a few of the things that have gone on this year in the Main Street area. First of all, in the Solomon Block building, Clippers and Scissors is moving into where we used to have Phil Rivera's studios, sing-along studio space, and Crystal Dion owns that business. She spent several years trying to find the right place in Littleton to move from Lisbon, and she's very delighted that now she's going to have a new business right there in the middle of Hollywood and Vine. The Tilton Opera Block, 15 Main Street, has a new gear shop with and they're expanding dramatically. Matt Keating and Marie Keating came here last year and built a business. They're incredibly innovative, creative, hard-driving, hard-working, imaginative entrepreneurs, and we're very lucky to have them. American Hairsmith with Phil Colpritt's thing has moved back in to the traditional location for a barbershop. I think it was Al the barber ran his barbershop there for over 40 years, and now we have Phil in that same space. We have a new, beautiful jewelry store that'll be opening in the next few days. Tigran Meridian and his wife Asmik from St. Johnsbury are well-known jewelers, makers of custom jewelers, and they've now decided they're going to open their own shop here in downtown Littleton, and they'll be in the Opera Block building also. And then we have a new attorney there, Mark Youngholm, who has opened an office on the second floor of that building. In the Jacks Jr. building, that geeky girl in Northern Woods website design, aka Amy Austin, has recently expanded her business and moved onto the second floor of that building. The Alberitos organization with the Alberinis once again moving another new business, new entrepreneurial venture into the downtown area. Alberitos on Main opened this past year in what was the Smooch space. Eames Realty has continued to invest in Main Street. It's one of the great places to live, not only to work and to recreate, but also to live. And so they've done major renovations on several of their apartments in those buildings and added all new heating systems in 3 of the major buildings. On up the street, the Littleton Nails and Spa organization has just recently opened in the Frizzell building on Main Street right next to the photo factory. So another place to go and get taken care of with those kinds of services and salon offerings. The Schilling Beer Company, oh my goodness, it's good. It's off to a great start. It's a welcome and exciting addition and going to be an additional catalyst to what we're going to be trying to do along the River District. We're delighted to have them in the gristmill building along the riverfront. We have new owners of the Miller's Cafe organization who are working as hard as you can imagine anybody should work. Ann Bocash and her husband, Andrew Kilmer, are doing a great job with that facility. So we have new ownership in that particular business. There's a cute new creative little building called Travel Bug that's in the business called the Travel Bug that's in the Tilton building. Go in there and look at this lady's traveled the world, and she's brought back a lot of the neat products that she's seen in many, many places and has them for sale here in downtown Littleton. And she's also a very creative artist in making some of her own things. We have a new business that's consignment with beautiful sporting goods items called Remax Sports. It's also in the Tilton building. It's on Main Street. Don Lambert and Michael Young are the couple that own that building, and I was there yesterday, and they have a lot of beautiful winter sports paraphernalia there that you should go take a look at, and a great price, of course. AFM Security is a new private investigator and security firm that has moved their offices to downtown Littleton, and they're in the lower level underneath the Gold House restaurant. Curvy Divas is on the lower level of the Hunkins Eaton building. It's a new women's wear store. You should go check that out. My own gallery at the Nest and Avery's Garden is on the lower level on the riverside at the Nest business. And we're off to a great start and really excited about the potential of those 2 businesses. LaHoots has added another entity to their business with lahoots.com, and their offices are on the lower level of the LaHoots Patagonia store. And incidentally, they did a beautiful job with redoing the outside of that to really help dress up the River District. All of our neighbors are very, very proud of that building. Let's see, Small Wonders. Do you know where Small Wonders is? It's a new children's consignment store that recently opened at 101 Main Street, and it was owned by a couple, Joe and Cassie Audette, and you should go in there. Great, cute things for the little ones. At the Tannery Marketplace, I want to mention there's been a huge amount of change going on there, and Ray Cloutier has worked very hard for many years to try to make that into a vibrant commercial establishment. Very importantly, the Fresh Salon and Day Spa has opened with a major expansion there, and just in the past few weeks. Lenny Kenny, a very talented leather artist, has a studio there. Mountain Goth Studio, a hats maker owned by Suzanne Love, is in that building. Really cute stuff, nice stuff. North Country Community Radio, a great new nonprofit AM and internet radio station. Incidentally, also has an application that looks very promising for a new FM station, is also in that building. Bare Images and the Improv Screen Printing, Paul Greenlaw's business, has moved there and opened their facility there in January. Time to Learn Wellness, a Reiki studio and a wellness therapy center owned by Cynthia Noyes, is in that building. Stacy Dahl has just announced that she's going to be moving and opening a new yoga studio in that building, and she'll also have her marketing and design offices there. So lots of very, very positive things going on. I now want to close with just mentioning that in many ways, this place is so attractive because of not so much the new entrepreneurs, but the experienced entrepreneurs that exist in Littleton, the legacy businesses that have set the foundation for innovation for Main Street for many, many years. When the rest of the country was very concerned about their economic health, our town was thriving. Our town was growing. When Walmart and all the other box stores came to Littleton, our Main Street leaders and business owners took it upon themselves to recreate themselves and have a very thriving, vibrant downtown area. The Coffee Pot is in its 34th year with the Eames Building. The Topic of the Town has been here for 30+ years. Artworks has been here for over 20 years. Alakai is in their 17th year. That's hard to believe for me because I thought they just opened. Chudder's has been a major attraction for Main Street, started by the Hamiltons, now run by the Aldens, and it's been here for over 18 years now. Let's talk about Jack's Junior Theaters. Jack's Junior Theater has been on the corner it's on for 63 years, owned and run by the same family every day. That family has owned theaters on Main Street since 1920 for 93 years in Littleton. They've been a part of the entertainment of coming to Littleton. The Profitos family have been in the food business in downtown area for over 90 years. They've been in their current building for 69 years. The LaHoots General Store opened on Union Street 91 years ago, and that same family today tries to find new ways to bring value to the marketplace and to bring success to Littleton. Ray's Gift Shop became Ray's Smoke Shop on Main Street and has been there for over 60 years. Gold House Pizza is in its 35th year. Hunkins Eaton Insurance is in its 44th year on Main Street. The Littleton Bookstore has made huge contributions as a destination for many, many visitors for over 20 years. The Northern Lights Music Store, run by the Solomons, has been here, run by the Solomons, for the last 35 years. The Photo Factory operation has been in business in downtown Littleton for over 50 years. While their industry has changed dramatically, they have been leaders and agents of change in redefining their business into something that's very valuable to our community today. And also I want to mention that tonight, after this meeting is over, Parker's Marketplace is celebrating their 25th year as a marketplace. Incidentally, Italian Oasis, which was originally called I. Parker's, I think that was their name, and Duck Soup have been in that building doing business since the very beginning. And so if you'd like to join them in their celebration from 5 to 7:30 tonight, they have special sales and all kinds of great things happening there. So we're lucky. We have great banking. We have great services infrastructure, good law, strong law firms, great financial services organizations. All of this supporting a very vibrant downtown area that now has 20 new businesses, 5 major store expansions, and 2 new owners for Main Street Littleton. It's a great year to celebrate all that's wonderful about our town. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm not David Harkless. I'm Greg Eastman, representing the Littleton Industrial Development Corporation. I got to run out, so I just wanted to jump in front of Dave for a couple minutes. As far as the industrial park goes, not many changes in the past year, which I think with this economy is a good sign. Things that LIDC have done in the past year is the remaining land that we do have. We've had worked on by Horizon Engineering, conceptual designs. So if a potential buyer wants to come to us and has a wish for land, we can produce for him plans that will, which they can see if what they want to do is within their budget and if their size building can go in the park. And Horizon Engineering did that work for us. The park itself, in the last, we talked about investment in the River Commission, and the investment Littleton put into that and what it gets back as a yield. Paul McGoldrick used to love to throw around these numbers, and I'm not going to go through them all. Littleton, since 1974, their investment into the industrial park was a little over $1 million. The total investment into the park was $4 million. The balance was made up by funds from LIDC, the EDA, Federal Home Loan, which is now USDA, Rural Development, and the state of New Hampshire. So Littleton put in $1 million out of the $4 million, and the property taxes paid from the 16 or so tenants in the industrial park is in the neighborhood of $560,000 a year. So over the period since 1977, that's about a $9 million return to Littleton. So it's been a good investment. There are about 1,200 to 1,500 employees in the park, generating payroll in the neighborhood of $50 to $60 million. And as an economic benefit, you apply a three-point multiplier to that. That money, that payroll money comes back into town at least 3 times, or the region at least 3 times. That's $180 million. So that's our recap. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Dave Harkless from Littleton Bike and Fitness, 32 years downtown. On the other Main Street, otherwise known as Cottage Street. But I'm here to talk to you about Mount Eustis. Last year at this time, I came up, told you about our project and our ideas and our vision to reopen the Mount Eustis ski hill. And as much as I would like to say, first good snowfall, we're going to turn that rope tow on. Probably not quite yet, but we're working on it. So I'm going to bring you up to date. Since this time last year, we've passed a warrant article getting permission to negotiate a lease by an overwhelming majority in the town. That was the real feel-good warrant article. We have since negotiated a lease, and it is just about set, just pending a little bit of review. We have found some reasonable insurance. Thank you to Brian Hadlock. The insurance was going to all of a sudden pop from $5,000 a year up to $10,000 a year. It took some innovative thinking, and it seems like we're well on our way to an insurance policy for a small little ski area that's going to be donation only for somewhere under $3,000 a year. So that's very good news. And we've raised in pledges and actual money up to $19,000 in the past year, with a one big thank you to Union Bank for a very large pledge to us for $5,000. Thank you. We are on pace. You're hopefully this winter you'll see some progress up there. We're on pace to start clearing the trails, start building our new trail, reroute the snow machine trail. We applied for and got a grant from the Trails Bureau to reroute the snow machine trail that goes right down the front of the slope. It will now be in the woods on the left-hand side, exiting right around the same place. There's going to be a new ski trail cut, making a backwards D as you look up the hill, and a gladed area. There's been a bunch of meetings, and our website is up. It's mounteustis.org. If you need any info, you can always contact me also. There will be skiing on Mount Eustis probably this winter, but nobody's going to give you a ride up the hill or tow you up. I'm sure I'll cut a couple turns on it, and hopefully by this time next year, we'll say we have a rope tow in place. I want to thank the high school for their involvement. Our rope tow motor is currently being rebuilt in Dan Brodine's auto mechanics class, and I have promise from Corey Pernard to help us with our buildings at the bottom and at the top, the rope tow. So we're trying to keep the whole community involved. And just like the Riverwalk Commission, where they said, you know, they got $4,000 and they spent $600. Well, you know, we've raised a lot of money and we've spent very little. And the reason why we spent very little is, you know, I walk out and I tell you, I went up, we're talking about starting to do some of the logging, so I needed a culvert. So I stopped by Wilco and I see Richie, and I say, Richie, I need a culvert. He says, yeah, no problem. And that's just the way it is. You know, I went up and we needed some site work done. I went up and saw Gardner Kellogg. He said, yeah, no problem. And that's how this is going to happen. So everybody says to us, what's our budget to build the Mount Eustis ski hill? Well, you know, if we got to go buy everything, it's going to cost us about 150 grand. But each time I go, or somebody else on my committee goes and approaches a business or an individual, they say, yeah, no problem. And I just want to thank you. See you next year.
Hi, I'm Dick Alberini, and I wrote notes because, as most of you know, I could talk a hungry dog off of a meat wagon. I was asked to talk about the Opera House venue, place where we're sitting right now. So there is a commission, and there's a group of volunteers. We've been meeting faithfully since February 2012. They include me, Dan Stearns, George Mitchell, Don Merrill, Dennis Hartwell, Diane Godden, and when Chad was in with the chamber, we had Chad, and now we have Lauren. All right. Our main goal was to make this place user-friendly, turn it into a cultural center, and generate income through rentals, weddings and conferences. What we've done so far, we have a baby grand piano. Well, it's not really a baby grand. It's smaller, so we call it an infant. All right, new curtains. A couple of weeks ago, George, Don, and I joined Riggers Union 205, I believe, and we came in and we hung the new curtains. Don and I climbed around in the attic. We did all the rigging to put up the screen, and so the three of us put this stuff up. So we have a piano, we have the new curtains, we have 250 chairs, which were picked out that are quite comfortable. We have 60-inch diameter tables, so we can do conferences and weddings, and a 200-inch retractable remote control screen. So that's what we have done up to this point. What's left? We need rigging, and we have to hire professional riggers for it to be able to put the rest of the pipework up into the, above the stage. Blackout curtains. We want some electrical work done for dimmers, for ambiance. Upstage curtains, replace the gold with black. We need rolling racks for chairs and tables. A sound system. One of our dreams is also down the road to put in a warming kitchen, so it will be a little bit more user-friendly. We need footlights done. And the next thing is we're looking to create another committee. We'll be looking for volunteers, and we need a booking committee to actually come up and say, okay, January there's going to be a piano concert, so we will find out, you know, and put that together. So the two committees will be two separate entities, so we can start turning this into the cultural center that we're dreaming of. We're looking at grants. We still have over $5,000 left. We haven't spent all of our money. We look holding on to that for matching grants. Looking for corporate sponsors, donors. Well, donuts are okay too. And activities. We're planning a Betty Davis night on April 5th. And if anyone knows of a Betty Davis look-alike out there, let me know. As you know, I'm an actor, but I don't have Betty Davis eyes. So Betty Davis night, a piano concert, movies that will generate income that will go right into this venue to buy what we need to get. So that's what we've done. That's where we've been, that's where we are, and it's where we are going. Also, one last plug. I'm the curator of the Historical Museum. This place has a great museum, take my word for it. It's down in the basement, so when everything's done here, I will open the museum up for about a half hour. I won't talk to you, you just come down, poke your head in, take a look and see what we have. And if you want to come back, come on back and visit. But I'll have it open for you for about a half hour after this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Cooper, and I am the director of the Women's Rural Entrepreneurial Network, also known as WREN. And I want to thank Lauren for inviting me to give what she said was a micro presentation here today. I haven't brought any notes. Because WREN is not technically located in Littleton, but we are very much a part of your community, and we're very invested in our North Country community. We started in 1994 right here in Littleton on Main Street as a small pilot program for 12 women to help them start and grow their own businesses and to improve their lives and livelihoods. Today we have 1,100 members, women and men, business owners and non-business owners, and we are now, our central location is in Bethlehem, New Hampshire, where we have a storefront, a gallery, we have offices, we have incubator office spaces, and we run entrepreneurial training classes. We have a group for senior WRENs called the Renegades, and we have a program for girls and boys called Wings. The WREN model was a very interesting and successful model, so we went to Berlin in 2009 to test it out, and now we have a very lively community in Berlin where I also didn't mention that we have started a farmer's market in Bethlehem. And in Berlin, we have a very successful farmers market and an office there now where we offer entrepreneurial training classes and lots of community development classes. This year, our most recent venture was to open a store at the Mount Washington Hotel. So we now have a second retail outlet of our Local Works Marketplace, which is located at the Omni in the lobby. If you haven't had a chance to visit it, you should take a look. Our store is called Local Works Marketplace, and we sell just products made by people who are local and support lots and lots of local businesses. Many of your businesses in Littleton have benefited from classes and opportunities at WREN, Northern Lights Music, Bare Images, the Coffee Pot. Looking around the room, there's many of you who the Littleton Bookstore, Bad Art. There's numerous businesses in Littleton that are a part of WREN. This coming year, we're going to be celebrating our 20th anniversary, and that is going to be full of lots of various events that you should keep your eye out for. I welcome all of you to come to Bethlehem at any time to our first Friday gallery openings. We have developed a wonderful gallery program there that supports many local artists with opportunities to show their work and for other people to see their work. So for all these years, we've been helping women and men all these years, primarily women. 80% of our membership is women. And there's a kind of a game I play with myself every time I come to a gathering like this, which is to look at who's presenting and how many of them are women. Now, if you look around the room, you'll see that half the people in this room are women, and I'm the first woman who's come up here to speak since Lauren introduced the program, and so I think we still have far to go. There's still a lot of opportunity for us in the economic leadership world. So I'm just going to leave you with that thought, and thank you very much for including me.
Good afternoon. My name is Warren West. I work at Littleton Regional Healthcare, and I thank you very much for having us today. In January, the hospital will be celebrating its 107th year in this community. And as you all have seen the changes over the last couple of years, we've grown from about a $110 million organization 3 years ago to a $142 million organization today. We have about 475 employees, and over the last 2 years has added 24 new employees. Our payroll has grown to about $31.5 million. And if you do a multiplier, about 1.9 on that, the economic impact of this community is about $60 million a year. So we are a very strong engine to continue to help this economy grow. We've invested over the course of the last 2 years about $9 million in our facilities. And we do that because, as you've seen, we've grown from a very small community hospital to a regional player. And that has been our goal, and that's what we continue to do. Next month, we're very excited. Our wood boiler chip plant will be fired up. That will be in a position to save us about $400,000 of fuel costs a year. With the help of the board and the leadership team, we've been trying to do whatever we can to continue to reduce healthcare costs. This new boiler plant will complement the geothermal system we have for the medical office building, and we are essentially a very green facility. We recycled over 1 million pounds of recyclable material this year. So we are very excited about what's going on. Over the course of the last 2 years, we've grown the depth and breadth of our services by recruiting 14 new physicians to the community. And we do all this, whether you know it or not, with a very, very shrinking bottom line. Our margins on any given year are 1% to 2%. And I am very concerned, quite frankly, over the course of the next couple years about what the impacts might be with the Affordable Care Act. All I can ask is continue to support us in any way you can. Continue to ask any questions you have about what we do and how we do it. And we will get through this together. But we're very glad to be in the community, and we're very glad that we can continue to serve the region in the way we do. Thank you for your time tonight.
Good evening, my name's Steve Kleins. I'm the District Construction Engineer for the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. My area is Hanover North on the west side, Ashland North in the center of the state, and Bartlett North on the east side of the state. Brian asked me to come to this meeting tonight to talk a little bit about the interstate work that you see going on through Littleton and also south of Littleton. On your tables, there's 2 handouts. One's a long sheet, 8.5 by 14, that's got a bunch of information on it. And another is a packet of 8.5 by 11s that I'll go through rather quickly. When Brian asked me to do this, I didn't know quite the scope that he wanted me to cover. So what I did is I looked at the work we've done, or we have done recently from, in the last 6 years, let's say, from Concord North. Most all that work has to do with primarily pavement repair or rehabilitation. So a lot of paving work. There's a couple of jobs in there that have surface treatment, which can take various forms, but it's, like industrial strength driveway sealer, if you will, to preserve what we have out there. Anyway, that's what you see in this summary. The column, I'll just tell you that the column on the left is stimulus funding that came into place shortly after President Obama was elected in 2008. Anyway, the top, it's organized north to south. The projects listed at the top of the sheet are the projects on the north end of I-93. The top 3 are currently working now. The Littleton Waterford I-93 bridges over the Connecticut River are currently underway. They'll be completed next fall. We have 2 interstate jobs, one from exit 42 to these bridge jobs over the Connecticut River. That started this year, and that'll go all next year, and it'll complete in 2015. And the job that's repairing the interstate right around the town of Littleton that you've been so involved with over this last summer, and a lot since August actually, that'll be done spring of next year. So anyway, those three are 32 million or so. If you add up the whole page, you get $107 million worth of work out here on I-93 in the last 6 or 7 years. The next sheets have to do, the next 2 pages of the 8.5 by 11s have to do with the department's priorities, with things costing more and the funding remaining constant. I'll mention that a little bit more as we go. We've had to seriously prioritize what we're doing. The interstates, and the U.S. routes and some of the state numbered routes get the priority. Money spent on them primarily determined by traffic volumes, and other U.S. routes and other state numbered routes comprise 61% of our road system, get some of the remaining funding, and the unnumbered state roads are third priority. That pretty much has to do with the first 2 sheets. The next 2 have to do with pavement preservation departments. The 4th sheet has a graph or curve on it, and the significance of that curve is that it's a typical pavement deterioration curve. I won't bore you, I'll go through this as fast as I can, but what primarily happens is if you don't do something to pavement within the first 10 or 12 years, it'll deteriorate significantly thereafter. So we're trying to, on our interstate system and our primary routes, we're trying to do something to those to keep our good roads good and not lose what we have. The next page will show you some annual costs or some costs to do some repair work. If you do some work on a road within the first 10 years, it costs you much less to preserve that road than it does to wait for it to deteriorate into a very poor condition. It's much more expensive to bring back up into a good highway. And then the last 2 sheets are graphs of fuel prices and asphalt cement. Since the early 90s or mid-90s, the gas tax going to the highway fund has been at 18 cents. And you can see what's happened since the early 90s to the price of gas and fuel and the price of asphalt cement and all the associated construction costs related to those prices. Over the next year, you'll hear a lot of talk about increase in the gas tax to get more funding to improve and preserve our highways. That's all I have.
Good evening, I am Keith Pfeiffer. I am the Superintendent of Schools for the Littleton School District and SAU 84, located at 102 School Street. On behalf of the Littleton School Board and the School District, we would like to thank you for making us a part of this celebration of Littleton. I think it is true, the axiom that is presented that it takes a whole community to educate a child. That axiom is alive and well in Littleton. The support that this community gives to our school is much appreciated, and more importantly, doing a lot of good in preparing our students for the world they will enter. I'd like to talk about our schools a little bit. At Lakeway, we have introduced a new math curriculum in order to better prepare our students for the post-secondary world. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Lakeway Elementary School on the New England Common Assessment Program has finished within the top third of all elementary schools in the state of New Hampshire, and on 2 years we were in the top 10. We are developing and implementing a new system of standard-based report cards, which we hope will give parents and guardians a better understanding of the achievement of their children. For the 28th consecutive year, Lakeway Elementary School was awarded by the New Hampshire Partners in Education a Blue Ribbon Award for volunteerism at the elementary. Community member and school board member Leslie Robbins received the New Hampshire Partners in Education Award as a Volunteer of the Year. We are working collaboratively with the town of Littleton and the New Hampshire Department of Transportation on a Safe Routes to School project. We'll be putting in a new crosswalk between the LaHoot parking lot and the main entrance, and doing additional work up on Pleasant Street with the crosswalk and the sidewalks. As you are probably aware, Daisy Bronson Middle School now has a new home. It is located in discrete space on the 4th floor of the Littleton High School and CTC Center. We have a very dedicated, strong team working together to deliver education to 7th and 8th graders. The middle school is sort of a house within a house because we're part of LHS. But we have a space for these youngsters so they can grow and mature. However, we do utilize core facilities within the high school. Littleton High School. We have an interim principal this year, Harvey Black. Harvey is an excellent example that you can come to work in Littleton, leave, but you're always welcome to return. Harvey was here as a school administrator in the late 80s and early 90s, and we're very pleased to have him back. Last year we hosted the Regional Destination Imagination Festival for the North Country for the first time in 20 years that the festival was hosted by a North Country school. Destination Imagination is a creative problem-solving and critical thinking activity participated by teams from all states in the United States, all provinces in Canada, and 84 countries. The global festival is held in late May in Tennessee at the University of Tennessee. Last year, we had a very successful athletic year. We won a state championship in women's soccer. We competed in the playoffs in boys soccer, girls field hockey, boys and girls basketball, boys baseball, and girls softball. Our kids represented us well. We have introduced and are embedding a new integrated math program to help our student achievement in mathematics. We are adopting the next generation science standards so that our students are prepared to enter the world of science in wherever they choose to go after Littleton. We have adopted and we are working to embed the Common Core standards. Denise Lafitte, long-standing social studies teacher, recently returned from taking 26 students to Washington, D.C. to learn about federal government. In about a month, Rachel Angelitis is taking 4 Spanish students on a combined trip with White Mountain Regional High School to Spain. We continue with your cooperation to develop extended learning opportunities in the community, and we would like to thank our local businesses and organizations for supporting and helping students have a real-world learning experience. This program is under the direction of Connie Ward. Connie, we'd like to thank you. And as a footnote, I'm told that if you're interested in participating, Connie has brought forms for you to fill out. We also cooperate with Bob Butson's Grafton County Extended Learning Project to give our students opportunities in our regional opportunity to learn outside of school. I'm not sure you're aware, but all of our high school students have to do 75 hours of community service, helping and supporting this community and keeping it vital. Today, 25 members of the National Honor Society and 4 staff members helped serve Thanksgiving luncheon to Littleton seniors. Great experience always, and we are glad that we can participate in that. As previously mentioned, on November 7th, the National Honor Society also developed and presented a Veterans Day celebration. Jeff Howard was our keynote speaker. Over 40 veterans came to the event, including 5 World War II veterans. We are honored to have these ladies and gentlemen in our presence in our school. At the CTC, the Health Occupations Program was the first health occupation program in the state of New Hampshire to take the National Health Occupation Assessment. Our students scored in the top 10% nationally of all students taking this assessment. 3 members of the Health Occupation Honorary were elected to state officer this year, and due to the work from Mrs. Babin and Mr. Demers. Members of the business occupation class also scored well on a national assessment for business occupations. The Society for Future Educator honored our students at the national meeting in Houston, Texas. The CTD Center, part of Littleton High School and Daisy Bronson Middle School, is alive and well in its new location. It is a wonderful opportunity to apply learning. Over 100 of our high school students and 100 students from 8 other districts attend our CTC. We strive to improve our education and prepare our students every day, but mostly we'd like to thank you.
Hi, my name's Tom Tremblay with Coldwell Banker Linwood Real Estate. We have an office here in Littleton, and we also have offices in Franconia, Lincoln, and Ware, New Hampshire, down in the Manchester-Concord area, if you don't know where Ware is. And please no Ware jokes. We're tired of that. When Chad first called me about presenting here today, I started on a 30-slide PowerPoint presentation and about 10 pages of notes. And then I was talking to Chris Covey yesterday, and she says, Tom, you're going to have 2 minutes. So I had to do a little chopping. But what I wanted to talk about today was the real estate market on a national, a state, a county, a Littleton region, and a Littleton, specifically Littleton, and I've got that all on just a couple of pages, so it's going to be quick. On the national scene, over the past 2 years, the adjusted annual rate of home sales has gone from 4.2 million to 5.4 million. And, but we've seen a drop off on this rate here in the last few months as things are starting to change. However, in some areas of the country, we're seeing shortages of inventory and actually multiple offers on properties and a rapid escalation of prices. In fact, some people feel that we're going into a real estate bubble, believe it or not, after we've been through, you know, all that we've been through over the last 7 or 8 years. The supply right now, over the past few months, again, this rate has slowed down, but the inventory has decreased to the point where we now, on a national level, have 5 or 6 months worth of inventory, which is considered to be a normal market. So it's not a seller's market, it's not a buyer's market. And that's actually a healthy place to be. And the experts are predicting that over the next 5 years, escalation or appreciation of real estate is going to be in that 3 to 4% range annually. The average, the median selling price on a national level is $199,500, which is 12.8% higher than it was a year ago. And represents the 11th straight month of double-digit year-over-year increases in that median price. On a state level, the median selling price in New Hampshire is $210,000, which is 12.8% higher than it was in October of last year, but still lower than it was earlier in this year. And around August, that was about $220,000. But that's come down mainly because the market slowed down a little bit. The current inventory in New Hampshire, at one point there, a year ago, we had a 13-month supply of homes in New Hampshire, meaning that if nobody listed a property today, just the inventory that we had, and no new properties came on the market, it would take us 13 months to sell that inventory off. Now we're down to about 8 months in New Hampshire. On a county basis, which of course for Grafton County, which includes Hanover and the Lebanon area, the sales volume is up about 27% this year compared to last year, but the prices have remained fairly flat. In the Littleton region, which is the 20 towns that surround Littleton, the total number of units sold in the past 12 months is 272 compared to 307 last year for the same period, a 12% decrease. The average selling price has increased 10% compared to last year. And if we look back into like 2009, the average selling price is about 17% higher than it was back then. And the annual volume of sales in the Littleton region is about $30 million, and that's been fairly consistent over the last 5 years. In Littleton, the sales volume is actually down a little bit, which kind of surprised us as we were looking at some of these numbers here, because we feel like we're having a good year. But the sales volume is actually down to about 7 million. This is just in Littleton and just residential, from about 6.7 million. And down, if we look at the numbers 5 years ago in 2009, the numbers today are down 22% in the sales volume. And the number of homes sold this year, however, is up about 10%. So sales volume's down, units sold is up. So, you know, what's happening here? The average selling price in 2009 in Littleton was $158,000. This year, it's running $119,000. So this price has been, you know, it's almost a straight line decline over the last 5 years in those numbers. Presently, Littleton has about a 12-month supply of residential homes for sale. Last year, that was 10 months. But nonetheless, that's a far cry from where it was in 2009. We had 23 months worth of inventory on the market. So in conclusion here, we believe that 2014 is going to be a breakout year, despite some of this little bad news locally. But on a national level, we're hearing a lot of great news, and we feel that it's going to be a breakout year and for the Littleton and the regional towns around here. And we're making some predictions that the average selling price this year in Littleton is going to be $128,000, up from $119,000. The average days in the market is going to be, we expect, about 108 compared to 119 days on the market that we're experiencing this year. That's way down. That was up to, I think, 193 days in the market five years ago. The sales volume will be about 7.2 versus 6.7. And the other thing, interest rates are on the climb. So all the experts, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, National Association of Realtors, the banking associations are all predicting that interest rates by the end of 2014 are going to be in the neighborhood of 5.25 to 5.5. That remains to be seen. So all in all, you know, it's a great time and probably the last good time that we're going to see for a while for people to buy homes. From a selling perspective, it's still, you know, the sellers have to keep their the prices on their homes realistic. If they are priced realistic, they're selling quickly. If they're not, they're sitting on the market and getting stale, and ultimately they're selling them for less money per square foot the longer they're sitting on the market. And with everything that's been said today about the River Project and the entrepreneurial spirit that's alive and well in Littleton, you know, it's just an exciting town, and I think that, you know, I think the River Project to me is an opportunity to make Littleton more of a destination town than it already is, and I think a lot of this, that's going to generate a tremendous amount of interest, and I think bring a nice influx of people into the community, and also, of course, that'll increase demand for homes and add to the real estate market. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Ray Dion. I'm the Regional Vice President for Connecticut River Bank. I guess you could say I'm the new banker on the block. I was flattered that I should be asked to speak tonight since I've been here for only about 5 months, but then it dawned on me that Chad was in charge of the program. Chad works for me, and he figured I was an easy mark, so here I am. But I am a flatlander. But I'm a flatlander who's been coming to the North Country for over 40 years. I'm a flatlander who put his money where his mouth is and bought a home in Sugar Hill 3 years ago. My intention was to retire up here, and I ended up being lucky enough to find gainful employment. And I'm thrilled to be here. And maybe it's kind of useful having me do a presentation, because maybe you get to see things from a new set of eyes. All this discussion of the downtown, I mean, my wife and I used to be some of those people who would drive downtown, and it's such an inviting downtown, you had to pull the car over and you had to get out and walk around. Now that I've been here 5 months, I realize that this doesn't happen by accident. The downtown, you have many towns and small cities throughout New England who are envious of the downtown you have here, and it's all been due to much hard work, investment, both in time and money, and the realization that a vibrant downtown isn't a static thing. It's an ever-evolving thing, and this is witnessed by the Saranac Street project. That's a great project, and the fact of the matter is, the longer you can get people to stay downtown, the more money they're going to spend. So that's a wonderful thing. The other observation, and after I accepted the position to come up here, I started looking at the banking landscape. And this piece is good for you and bad for me. When I took a look at how many banks there were in a town the size of Littleton, 5,000 to 6,000 people, I thought, oh no. I'm going to have a tough time pleasing my bosses, because there is a lot of banking competition up here. Of course, it's been friendly competition and everyone's been very welcoming, but I mean, that is a great thing for this area. There's no issue with a lack of capital in this area, let me tell you that. And then after I've been here a while as well, just all the other resources that you have here, you know, between NCIC, NCC, the Grafton County Economic Development Corp, rural development, and then these various local loan funds. There's no reason somebody with a darn good idea can't get something started here or expand a business here. So those are two observations from somebody relatively new to the area. And I don't have any statistics for you. I chose not to go that route because I'm still trying to make friends. So, so I'm just going to give you a few anecdotal things that I see just from my position as the regional vice president and the commercial lender. And some of this follows very nicely with what Tom was pointing out, is that this year, as opposed to last year, a lot of banks last year made income on refinancing. That's not happening anymore, and it's certainly affecting earnings. But what we are seeing is more purchase contracts, so we're financing more purchases. And it's not all distressed sales. I mean, there's some good purchases going on. We're also seeing more demand for some construction. Coming out of the area I came from in southern New England, about a year ago, this began down there, and you were getting a very active real estate market, and also much more construction activity. It's kind of my understanding at this point that when a recession comes, starts up here, works its way south, and then it starts recovery in the south and then works its way north. So I'm hoping that's the case, because the real estate market was actually quite vibrant to the point where I know my oldest daughter, who was looking to buy a home down there, was actually having trouble finding a starter home, even getting in to see one, because they had multiple offers on properties before she could even get in to see them. She did ultimately buy her house, though. So that's some of the good news. So we're seeing more purchase transactions. We're seeing some more demand for construction. I'm also seeing people from outside the immediate area coming in and looking to buy businesses in this area. They want the lifestyle of living in the North Country. And so they're up here, they've decided it's time for them to spend their money up here. And I'm also seeing growth in local companies. So when you look back to 2008, when things were really scary and you didn't know where the bottom was, you take a look back and now look where we are now. I think you should have some comfort in the fact that we've come a long way, and I think bright things are ahead for the Littleton area. And with that said, that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
My job is to fill in the blanks as to the other economic development success stories that we've had over and above what's been shown today. One of the most exciting things that happened was a snowstorm caused our salt shed to collapse. Now, why is that exciting? Well, Littleton's a Pollyanna town where you take lemons and make lemonade. Jim McMahon, the owner of the salt shed that collapsed, turned around, put a new building in, built it. Scott Manning and his partner Doug Aikens rented 9,900 square feet of that new building, which is a 50% improvement for increased floor space for their business, Appalachian Stitching. They invested $750,000 for plant equipment, and they've created a new felt division that is happening right there, guess what, along the river. So it was an exciting enterprise for there. Federal Express, they've been busy enough that they put together a $800,000 addition in the industrial park. Family Dollar was finally completed, a $700,000 new building where the old McDonald's was. Crosstown added an addition for $300,000 so that they could do large trucks. And something that's really exciting, I don't think has ever happened before. We actually have a $2 million house being built in Littleton. Now, how do I know? Well, they filled out a building permit, went to the town of Littleton. I don't know if they were bragging or what, but we take the information as we find it. A 7,000 square foot building off Osgood Farm Road. The biomass plant that Warren West spoke about is a $2.9 million addition. They're projecting it'll pay for itself in 4 years. In addition, we've had renovations. The Modern Furniture purchased the Pilgrim Furniture building, purchased it, and then has totally renovated it. And if you haven't been to it, it's a phenomenal store and a real anchor for our Meadow Street area. The Presby brothers, Thaddeus and Trevor, purchased the Agway property, renovated it, has now 3 rents in it. They also took the car wash that was on Union Street that was in disrepair and repaired that, and that's now another tremendous asset to the community. If anyone again is driving up towards Apthorpe, you'll see the old Profile Cleaner building. Dave Rochefort of Eastern States Compounding Pharmacy, according to the building permit submitted to the town, is investing $663,000 on a renovation project there. And in Apthorpe, that is quite an addition. Matter of fact, it's quite an addition anywhere. Dr. Howard Mitz bought the Summit Medical Building, moved his practice there and invested, according to his building permit, $220,000 in taking that medical building to another level. We also have projects in development. The Sears property is under agreement. It's been presented to the town, about 85,000 square feet of additional retail space. According to what's been presented, $65,000 for an anchor store and two $10,000 stores beside it. The Merrill lot, which was owned by the Presbys, was sold to a jeweler out of the Lebanon area that will be coming to town, hopefully sooner rather than later. The Merrill farm was sold for $500,000, and that's been purchased, and if you drive by, you'll see it's undergoing extensive renovations for office space. WLTN is working diligently to relocate their offices to Cottage Street, investing a lot of money, so they'll have a state-of-the-art digital radio station for their empire that serves the North Country. The Dr. Hill property at the end of Main Street, before it goes down into Meadow Street and headed to West Main, that was purchased by Christina and Chad Roy, and that is actually two pieces, and they are using it for office space and will be using it for retail. In 2012, according to our building permits, there was $1.8 million of investment that was shown on those, and 8 new homes were part of that. In 2013, $8.8 million were shown on the building permits, of which there were 6 houses. Tom Tremblay talked about housing and the challenges we face. From 2000 to 2006, a 7-year period, we built approximately 29 new housing starts per year. That dropped to 12 to 7. We had a couple of years at 4 and then 3, and now we've gone back up to 8. So it's trending in the right direction. Now, this was not a good year for home prices. There's a good reason for that. For a couple of years of the recession, at least 3, we all had the dubious honor of leading the county in foreclosures. That's the bad news. The good news is that our foreclosures have dropped by about 70 to 75%, the number of them, and the properties are being purchased and renovated. That's very good news as far as what we're doing. On December 13th, we will celebrate Amanuensis Habitat for Humanity's 5th building. They'll be having a new family move into that. Littleton has been the recipient of their hard work twice. They're a regional entity. They have built homes for those in low moderate incomes in Whitefield, Bethlehem, and Lancaster, and now the second one in Littleton. Down on the Meadow, a property that was in foreclosure. It has been purchased by Jamie Myers and John Northrup, and they're going to hold it, and they're going to wait to see what happens with the River District development. It's a property that's fell in disrepair, but they're going to hold it, and hopefully maybe the highest and best use may be office space or some other use than residential. Jamie and John in partnership have also acquired 2 other properties that had been foreclosed upon. They've finished renovating one of them, which is 2 doors down this way from the elementary school, did a wonderful job on a 2-unit, and they're doing one off the Mount Eustis Road. Littleton Millwork is under agreement to purchase the former Advent Christian Church to expand their business on Lafayette Avenue. In addition, we talked about a lot of the big investors coming, but we have some local people that are willing to invest and acquire properties. Herb LaHoop took 2 lots of, let's say, residential property that had served its time and tore them down, and that's lots available on Union Street. Mike Bijol, right beside Dr. Holmes, has acquired 4 properties. It's about 8/10 of an acre, and those properties will be taken down over the next year or so that lot will be developed. So what we've had has been a tremendous amount of activity during a very challenging time. And I think with all what we've had here to talk about, we are very fortunate. Things perfect? Absolutely not. There's a lot of bragging here about how people aren't spending money. Well, I got to tell you a quick story. The Economic Development Task Force was formed in 1992. The town gave us a very generous budget of nothing. For 15 years, we doubled that budget every year, year in and year out. This town has a history of being thrifty when it comes to spending other people's money. And the hard work that we do and the volunteers that people step up to make projects work is shown over and over again, and I think today is an indication that we're all trending in the right direction. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Jean McKenna, Coffee Pot Restaurant. But I'm not here for me. I'm here for the town of Littleton. This is a wonderful program, and I did used to attend it quite a lot, but I got tired, and I realized that I couldn't stay awake after 11:30 in the morning and go through a lunch and listen to all of you wonderful people give us these speeches. So, I've not attended one of these in a long time, but I was asked this afternoon if I wouldn't award the Business Leader of the Year for the year 2013. I would like to read some information about this person prior to giving him the award. His name is David Harkless. He's owned the Littleton Bike Shop for a number of years. During that time, he has been deeply involved in the Littleton community, involved in many committees, striving to enrich our citizens, encouraging groups to strive for physical workouts, that is bicycling, skiing, rollerblading, snowshoeing, etc., and actually leading the groups. He cares for his customers and his friends and is interested in assisting them in trying out new activities. He makes available the equipment, either for sale or rent, and the clothing for all of these different activities. Currently, he is a strong advocate for reopening Mount Eustis Ski Area. And if anyone can make this happen, Dave Harkless can. He has boundless energy and jumps into all of his efforts enthusiastically. I highly recommended him, and he was chosen. And I'm delighted. So David, if you would please step up here and take your award. Thank you for giving me that. David Harkless, 2013 Ray S. Burton Business Leader of the Year, presented to Dave Harkless. He's going to hang this up in the Littleton Bike Shop, and we're all going to see this when we go in. Yes! David would like to give you a few words.
I am pretty shocked. So I bought the business in 2004, and a lot of you know how that came about, and that was the best possible result of a tragic situation. And back then, I was in my early 40s, and I said I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And that was decided for me right then. I guess I was going to be a bike shop owner. It's been a lot of work and a lot of learning, and I love my community. And a lot of times I'll talk to people about my projects. It's Mount Eustis or the bike clubs or this or that or the other thing. And I say I got 6 pots on the stove, on a 3-burner stove, and I'm always trying to keep them all stirring. I want to thank you very much. And a moment like this is when you really miss your parents.
Well, thank you and congratulations to Dave, and thank you to all the speakers that were here tonight. A couple more thank yous: Ballywick's Fine Restaurant, who are here with the beverages, the Littleton Food Co-op, who supplied the food, and the Nest of Littleton, who supplied the beautiful arrangements that are on everyone's tables. I believe those are all for sale at the Nest now, right, Dave? So, thank you again for coming, and we will see you next year.